And then we went to the convention, and I was stumbled by the convention with the video on Friday and the talk about shunning, and then the teachings I felt that were unscriptural, requesting or telling us that now we need to shun people who are not disfellowshipped, but who are faded and inactive and unrepentant wrongdoers. And then on Sunday there was another, it's not a command that's given, but another instruction to shun people who are still in the congregation, but who have shown that Jehovah does not take priority in their life. And shunning to me is really severe. It's a severe form of punishment. I don't see it as a loving form of punishment. I never understood it. Asking them, what is the shunning? I don't understand it. And there was never any clear explanation of exactly what it means to shun and how it's, it encompasses everybody in your whole life. Because we're Jehovah's Witnesses. We don't have relationships outside of the congregation. So every single connection you have, family, friends, relatives, are going to cut you off completely. And that was never explained to me fully. And so then after the convention, I started researching shunning and the effects of shunning. And it led from the shunning to researching everything and trying to prove that this is the true religion, trying to prove that the governing body is led by God's Holy Spirit, the faithful and discreet slave is chosen by Jesus and Jehovah. And all of the evidence that I have found has led me or pointed me in the direction of proving that it's not the case. And so I was thinking maybe we could go over the information, because frankly a lot of it is very disturbing and shocking, and I've never been through anything so difficult to find out the things that I found out that your normal witness doesn't know about, doesn't think about. We don't look into things. And so maybe you guys could go over this information with me and show me where I'm wrong and the truth. And because my prayer to Jehovah, when I asked him, to help me prove the truth to myself, all I wanted to do was pioneer with my children. I just wanted to have it in my heart, whole soul, so that I could just, take them, pioneer with them, be completely absorbed in the congregation. And I love the friends of this hall, and that was the hardest thing to leave this hall, was leaving the friends, because I feel like this congregation is a beautiful congregation. There's a lot of very loving people. So maybe I'll start with some of the information. So I listened to your talk, The Highway to Holiness, and
okay. Yeah, you got to pick a starting point here to take a couple of points. Yeah.
one of the things, because I have a few different things. One of the things that you had said, you were talking about not drifting to the left or to the right, to stay center, and do not drift over what seems to be a minor issue. And I totally understand that, and that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like what I found are significant. They're not just minor issues. So, like the shunning thing, because that's what really stumbled me. Maybe I'll start with that. And this is all of my research. Not all of it. Some of it's upstairs, but this is a lot of the research
I didn't notice that many references to shunning in the convention.
No.
I mean, I know it was mentioned, dealt with.
Yeah.
I have a son who's disfellowshipped, has been for about 2.5 years. And so I know the pain that goes with it. And it's overwhelming. But imagine if Jehovah didn't shun Satan from the heavens. What would happen to more angels? Imagine if he allowed him to sit there and linger and tempt other angels. What would have been, what's the effect? Would you allow your kids to run around with kids who did obscene things in the neighborhood? Would you let them go outside and do things with kids that you knew were not going to be wholesome things?
No, but I'd still share a greeting with them. I would acknowledge their existence.
Would you acknowledge their existence if they were attempting to straighten up their life, or if they were still on a blatant course to disregard the things that you felt were wholesome? You would still extend a greeting to them? I'll give you an example with my son. Not only has he left Jehovah, he's gone deeper into Satan's world, and now he doesn't talk positive about Jehovah God. If he was coming back, do you think we would be in the corner rooting for him?
Mhm.
Absolutely. But if he's going completely the opposite way of everything that's important to us, what would I do if I were to condone or to associate with him in the minorest of ways? What would it teach him?
That you respect his different beliefs and
Yeah.
that he is allowed to feel how he feels, but he has to respect how you feel. And maybe there's no scriptural conversation.
But you know, that's exactly what Satan's done with this world. That's why you see these gay and lesbian movements as powerful as they are. Because everybody wants to accept what makes them feel good and fuzzy. It's no longer about Jehovah and Jesus, or Jehovah and Satan. It's about me. I don't care what Jehovah thinks. I don't care what Satan thinks. I think about me. Well, who are they really siding with that mentality?
But can't we accept them for their differences? We don't have to join in with those differences. We don't have to become, and we can be convicted enough in our beliefs that they are not going, if I were a friend with a homosexual woman, and I have been in my past before I was a Jehovah's Witness, my friendship with her didn't encourage me to turn homosexual. I accepted her for her differences and she accepted me for my differences, but there was nothing she could ever say or do to make me turn into that person.
Maybe not you, but what about 10 others that are in the congregation? Could we say the same thing for them? Do you know in the judicial system in the world today, when a parolee is let out of prison, do you know what they're not allowed to do? They're not allowed to be around any other parolees. Why do you think that is?
Because they encourage each other to do bad things.
That's exactly right. Who we're with is a product of what we become. Is that a fair statement, you think?
We start to show some similar traits. I don't know that we necessarily become that person unless that's the only person we're around.
Right.
If it's the only person we're around, then I feel like, yes, there's a possibility. But when you surround yourself with multiple people and that person is just in the mix, I don't necessarily think that their actions are going to. But as far as the shunning goes, and you bring up the parole and prison, and I feel like shunning is the most severe form of punishment. I feel that there is. I mean, even in prison, you're allowed to speak to your family and your friends. You can have visitors. But shunning is like solitary confinement. And solitary confinement is a form of torture. And I mean, that's the truth of it. When your life is the congregation and the people, when you're shunned, you're in solitary confinement. You have nothing.
You know,
Well, some of this may be a matter of definition now, use of shunning. Because you're talking about the convention and extending this, but we're not talking about disfellowshipping people that you can't speak with them. See, and maybe you're reading more into it than what was intended.
So it was the video that really, I felt opened my eyes to what shunning actually is, because, the brothers are using the videos because that really teaches us And the video was very specific in what's expected of us. There was the daughter who did something wrong, and the parents kicked her out of the house. She was no longer, she looked very young. Maybe her 20s, but quite possibly still in school. The Karen-
I doubt that.
Yeah, I don't think.
It was hard to tell.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. She was just a young sister.
The content implied she was out of school, probably 20 anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. But she still lived with her family, and they kicked her out. And then when she was disfellowshipped, they were to have no communication with her. She calls her mom, and her mom picks up the phone and sees it's her daughter and puts the phone down, which shows we're not to have any form of
See,
contact.
she was disfellowshipped,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but that was her choice.
Yeah, and I think that's my, having sat in elders' meetings, know this. We don't disfellowship our problems. As the training comes for men in God's organization, we don't just come to a meeting, find out what the wrongdoing is, and disfellowship our problems. We will work, we will turn every stone over to salvage that person and keep them part of the congregation. Do you know who ultimately makes the decision they're not going to be part of the congregation?
Well, it's the judicial committee.
It really is the person. It really comes down to the person. We're pleading with them to turn their course, but if they look at us and say, I'm going to use a hypothetical, no, I'm not going to quit sleeping with my girlfriend. I love her. I don't want to marry her right now, but I'm going to continue to live with her. Now, who made the decision that they're no longer part of the Christian congregation? The judicial committee or the person by their actions?
But what if it's the case of, well, I just can't believe this anymore, and so I'm not going to come to the meetings? And that's not choosing to be disfellowshipped, that's just choosing to,
There's no shunning that would be involved there then. There's no, nobody's gonna shun anybody that way.
okay. I just,
See, that could be a misunderstanding.
that, maybe that's what that is a misunderstanding.
Shunning is only to a disfellowship person.
Okay,
Only to a disfellowship person who's made a statement. They're not doing it Jehovah's way, they're doing it their way.